Do you need to say anything or do anything? Is there anything you need to say or do before I jump in? So I don't forget. It's my phone. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Kind of a bittersweet day for me because this is my last day hanging out with the Presbyterians. Oh my gosh, this Lent has flown by. I can't believe this is the last day of our series together. So, well, welcome, welcome. Come on into the circle if you're joining us for Adult Forum. Welcome to those of you who are at home. Any of you here for the first time this morning for the first time with me anyway, for Adult Forum morning? So glad you're here. Good morning, good morning. So I'm Dale Selover. I serve at Prince of Peace Lutheran Church in Princeton Junction, so I'm kind of your neighbor. I'm on the pastoral staff where I serve as the director of the House Next Door, which is a spiritual formation center at Prince of Peace. As I said to folks, I think the first time I was here, we called it an experiment for a number of years, and I think we have to stop calling it that. We had about 600 people visit the House Next Door last year, so I guess it's not an experiment anymore. So we are all about spiritual practices and anything that will help us be more intentional and awake and open to God in our lives. So we have retreats and individual direction and group direction, but we've also now expanded. It's not just about spiritual wellness, it's about mental wellness as well. So we have a marriage and family therapist, and we offer things like grief therapy and whatever the needs are that we hear arising in the community, we try to meet. So I'm so happy to be with you, and thank you for inspiring me to add something to my repertoire, because I tend to either have people come to me for direction or, I take my show on the road and lead retreats. But to do a series like this has been such a gift to me. Thank you so much for being here, because I feel my Lent has been so enriched by being with all of you. So thank you. So if you feel inspired, moved, whatever we do today touches you, this is the kind of stuff we do at the House Next Door. So I'll do one more plug that if you want to be on our email list, you can sign up. And then I do have flyers about all of our activities for this spring, so feel free to check them out. And then while I won't be with you next Sunday, you're going to continue this series with Lindsay. Next week, you are going to have a labyrinth here in this space. And you're going to experience the practice of walking the labyrinth. It's really kind of praying with our feet, if you will. Again, we've talked so often in this time together about how, we don't always have to have the right words. So we can let our bodies lead us into prayer and let our bodies, kind of get our attention of, maybe I need to stop and take a break and spend some time with God. So you're going to get to do that next week, which will just be a wonderful experience. Trust me on that. So let's start, as we always do, by lighting our candle. And we've talked about how even the simple ritual of lighting a candle is enough to make us pause, stop, remember God is right here with us. The one who is the light of the world is at the center of this circle at the center of our lives, and even in the center of our beings. Let's just do a little sharing before we enter into some quiet time together. Anything from this past week that you'd like to share? Did you try any of the spiritual practices? Was there anything about last Sunday that you took home with you? Were there blessings of spiritual practice this week? Were there challenges to spiritual practice this week? Anything you want to share with us as we learn from each other about these experiences? And it's okay if not, that's okay too. Oh, go ahead.
Well, my mom recently passed away, and I'm now lighting a candle every night, and it does bring me closer to her.
Yeah, thank you.
Something as simple as that.
Something as simple as that. And you know, I think it's so easy for any of us, even when we talk about spiritual practice, to go, oh gosh, I've got to do this, right? And I've got to do it for this length of time, and I have to do it every day for the rest of my life. And then what happens? Then we feel guilty, right? Because, oh, I only have 5 minutes, or, oh yeah, we talked about that last Sunday, haven't thought about it since, right? And that's okay. It's all about intention and awareness, right? God is always with us. Our mothers are always with us. It's about us doing these little things, these rituals, these pauses, so that we're aware of and we remember and we're centered upon and we're called back to. So there is no judgment in spiritual practice. It is an invitation to be aware of all of the ways in which God is showing up in our lives. So if you've been praying for one another and you have a card, if you would just put that card here on the table with the person's name facing up. These are our intentions that we've been holding for each other all of Lent. You said in the beginning, oh, this is my prayer for this Lenten season. So we've just kind of been holding that for each other. We're going to enter into a time of silence as we've been doing. And then today's spiritual practice, I was saying to Lindsay, gosh, I could go on for weeks. There's so many more things we could do. So this is just kind of like a tease of a variety of things you can experience. But today, it's a beautiful day. We're going to do a prayer walk. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. And for those of you who, for whatever reason, aren't comfortable going for a walk, I've brought things with us that you can stay put and do something else contemplative in this time. So let's let our bodies guide us. Let them be God's gift to us. And so I'm going to use a breath prayer, but let me give you the freedom of, if you really found it helpful to grab a rock and to let that rock focus you and center you, feel free to come up to our altar and grab a whatever's in the basket. I like to say, let it choose you. It amazes me how, what we need can be given to us, even in the gift of a rock. And you can hold on to that through the whole hour. And if it really speaks to you and you cannot let it go, you just let me know at the end, and maybe I'll let you take it home. So again, whether you use that rock to just center you, or we're going to use the gift of our breath, which is just the greatest gift because you take it with you wherever you go. So let's let our bodies guide us. We're going to sit in that posture of attentiveness, which just means that we are paying attention. We are expecting God to show up. And so we notice our feet that are firmly planted on the earth. And we pay attention maybe differently than we usually do when we're sitting. We're noticing the energy that comes up from the earth into our bodies. We're noticing our sense of groundedness that maybe we don't always pay attention to. We sense that deep connection, not just between us and creation, but between us and our Creator. Let your feet, let that energy, let that groundedness center you and focus you. The invitation is to put everything else to the side and just be. You may just want to rest right there in your groundedness. You may want to think of yourself standing on the rock of Jesus and be grounded in him in that way. Or maybe you want to join me and just travel right up your body and go to your hands. Those hands that have been busy all week, whether caring for children, hitting the keys on the keyboard, playing an instrument, doing dishes. Pay attention to those hands. Are you still feeling scattered even though we've grounded ourselves with the earth? Well, if that's the case, that's the feeling. Put your hands palm down on your thigh. And that'll help you to feel a little more grounded. But if you're feeling pretty settled, pretty grounded, maybe what you do is put your palms up. And that's just in a gesture of openness. You're reminding yourself that you are open to this time, this hour, this circle, those sitting around you, that you're open to God, and that you are indeed expecting God to show up. And as I always say, I don't think God cares how we sit or what posture we take. I think this is for us to just pay attention and notice, oh, am I feeling a need to be open because I'm feeling pretty shut down after this week? So I need to be reminded to be open to the gifts that this hour has to hold for me, to the gift that worship has to hold for me, to the gift that this community has to offer me this day. You may just want to remain there, or you may want to join me and do a body scan. And just slowly scan your body from head to toe, from toe to head, and just notice. Are there any aches or pains or stiffness? Is there any anxiety or grief that's getting your attention in this scan? Whatever you're noticing, just pause there. Stay there if you feel invited. And whether it's helpful to use the image of a laser beam or just be surrounded in love and light and healing, give that body part, give that feeling, that grief, that angst, that sore shoulder, give it some love, give it some light, give it some healing. You may want to stay there. Why is my heart feeling broken this morning? Why are my shoulders feeling heavy? Why is my lower back sore? You may want to stay there and just pay attention to that invitation. What is that about? What are you carrying that needs some loving attention? Or you may want to turn with me to your breath. Breath, one of God's greatest gifts. Not only is it the gift of life, but it is the gift of prayer. And so we focus in on our breath, just breathing naturally, aware that we are breathing in the breath of God, the breath of life, the breath of spirit. And as we breathe out, we are breathing out that gift of life, that gift of God, that gift of spirit to the world. And you may just want to let your breath be your prayer, no words attached at all. Or maybe you want to just pause for a moment and name what it is that you need this morning from this time, from this quiet, from the prayer walk that we're going to do. What do you need this morning? What do you need to step into the week tomorrow? Name that for yourself and God, that which you need, and just breathe it in with every breath. There's nothing too small, nothing too large that you can't ask God for. And God already knows. This is really for you to name it because God already knows what you need. And if you can't put a word to it, you just trust that as you breathe in, God is going to give you what you need. I also want you to think about what might be getting in your way today. What might block your openness to this circle, to the prayer walk, to God being here with you. What's not serving you well today? Name that for yourself and for God. And on every breath, just breathe it out. Just get rid of it and let it go. And again, if you're not sure, just pay attention to your breath and trust that God knows what those stumbling blocks are, and God will remove them for you. What is not serving you well? What might be in your way this day? Let's just spend a couple of moments in silence, letting our prayer be our breath, welcoming what you need, letting go what you don't, just breathing and being still, seeing what that rock in your hand means for you, whatever you need to do to just be centered and to be aware that God is here, as close as your nearest breath. And I'll bring our silence to a close with a chant that you're welcome to join me whenever you feel so moved. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on us. So I invite you to come back to the circle. And we are going to take a prayer walk. And it might be obvious, but like everything we've been doing, oh, if you don't mind, Lindsay, thank you. Like everything we've been doing, if we could just pass these around, this Lenten series, we all walk, we all go for walks. This is paying attention in a different way, right? And I remember the first time I went on an intentional prayer walk, I was a bit skeptical. I remember my spiritual director saying, okay, if you're walking and you see an acorn and that acorn speaks to you, like you need to stay with that acorn. And I was like, okay. Really, an acorn's going to speak to me? And I went for this beautiful walk out in the woods, and the invitation is to literally pay attention to everything, to go slow, right? If you're walking along the sidewalk, what's happening in that crack in the sidewalk? And if all of a sudden you see a flower coming out of there, that's something to pay attention to, right? Or all of a sudden a cardinal crosses your path. Oh, that's something to pay attention to. Well, I did go for that walk, and it was funny. I'm on this path. There was nothing on the path, and I'm partway down, and all of a sudden there's an acorn in the middle of the path, and I'm like, okay. And I have to tell you, it was such a beautiful, profound experience. I thought, okay, I'm going with it. And I picked up that acorn, and like, when do I pay attention to an acorn? I really don't, And there was something about staying with it and noticing it and the shapes. And next thing I know, I'm making a connection between that acorn and what I was going through in my life. And now my acorn sits on my kitchen shelf, and it's a reminder to me, right? And so I have a shelf full of all these little things that kind of stopped me in my tracks and invited me to pay attention. So I gave you that sheet, as always, not to get in your way, but it just gives you some language of what this invitation is about. It's just to go and pay attention. And so if something catches your eye, catches your ear, catches your nose, right, to just pause with it for a second. And maybe that's where you're going to spend the rest of the time, is with that acorn. Or you're just going to notice it and keep going. But again, it's a way to push everything else to the side and just focus in on you and the Creator and the Creator's presence with you in that moment. So let's take 15 minutes, and I invite you to go for a walk outside. It's a beautiful day. Come back here no later than 25 of, because I want to make sure we have some time to talk a little bit before we part. So 15 minutes. If you go with another person, you're welcome to obviously walk side by side. Please do not talk. Please do not talk. This is your experience. Go wherever you want. If you're not comfortable going for a walk, please feel free to stay, grab a stone. We had done visio, divina, and if you weren't here and you want to stay, I can explain about that. If you'd rather just do that, that's fine as well, okay? See you back here in 15 minutes. It's kind of a tease. 15 minutes is not long enough, but it's what we've got, so. gave. So I will. For those of you at home, you're welcome to go for a 15-minute walk. If you're watching us during the week, go for 30 minutes. And if you're not walking today, just find anything in your home that you could just sit with for a few moments and just let it help you to be still.
So I picked up this and I walked and I'm looking at it thinking, I wondered, what's so special about this? But I just kept thinking about that cigarette butt in the crack. And I thought, all right, I'm going to turn around and go back over and see what it's about. And I went back over and looked, and I couldn't find the cigarette butt. So since we started the catching our breath thing a few weeks ago, I decided I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes. So after 20 years, then I officially quit, and I can say it out loud today. And I thought, it's got to be, this little silly thing. Wasn't this, it was kind of to bring my attention to the cigarette. And I've been struggling with it. It's very difficult. And it wasn't there. And I said, you know what? That's it. It's done. It's gone. It's over and done with. No thinking about it anymore. And so hopefully. And then this little guy, I'm going to keep with me. And this is what I'm going to put my attention towards. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Isn't that amazing? That is amazing.
Each week I'm thinking, I really want to do it. And then last week I I could have said it last week. I'm not sure if I was fully not going to mess up.
Yeah, I'm not ready.
And so I said last week, I'm saying it out loud and I'm making it official. I quit. So,
And here's what I love about groups like this, right? I always say whenever we're together, we have an immediate prayer group and support circle. And so now, all these people, even if they don't mention it to you, are holding you, right? Like now we are all holding you. And when we see you on Sundays, we know this is where you are and we can support you in it, whether we talk to you about it or not, right? So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, my goodness. Now, this is not about topping each other, but holy cow. Yes.
In springtime, I walk through the cemetery. It's peaceful.
Yes.
And in a way, I'm thinking, no one can judge me here for all day.
Yes.
But there, I can just walk. It's peaceful. It's really pretty.
Yes.
And I can listen to all the sounds because now springtime is coming. I see new buds, and it's really the sounds of the wind blowing, the birds chirping, and like the signs of life coming back again.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't God so good? I mean, getting our attention with spring, right? You're just like how, even if you're not being intentional, how can you drive and not see daffodils and tulips and go, oh, God is good, right? I mean, we're still in Lent, but Easter's being proclaimed all over the place, right? I think about how in the pandemic, I don't think I ever heard people talk so much about birds and flowers, right, as we did in the pandemic, because everybody was out walking, right? We were like, we got to get out of the house. And everybody was talking about flowers and birds, because they were hope for us, right? I'll speak for myself. I felt like flowers and birds were hope. And they just kept they would not stop chirping hope, singing hope, right? Daffodils, they kept on rising, right? Tulips, it's like, okay, Easter's coming, right? Even in the pandemic. But that listening and the beauty of God, right? I think of the times when we really are turned inward or going through grief, whatever it is, and we don't notice those things, right? We're kind of in a fog and we really don't notice. But God does something to get our attention, like have a cardinal cross our path, or all of a sudden we finally do notice the sunset, right? And you go, oh, maybe I'm not being intentional, but God's going, I'm going to get your attention, right? I want you to notice that I'm here. I mean, part of the wonder of God, right? Takes no work on our part. God just keeps showing up. So I saw another hand, yes.
I was drawn to, we have a Seeds of Faith party across the street, so I went over there, and I'm walking around, and there's nothing on it. And that's what I kind of am going through sometimes with my life. I'm in a rut, like I saw the big Allentown sign, and welcome to Presbyterian Church, and I'm like, this is my home, but I'm thinking of moving, and so all these thoughts are going through my head, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I came back to the garden, and there's a ball of twine, and on the top it says celebrate it. So I took a picture of it, and you know what, maybe God's telling me to celebrate this time right now where I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. He's gonna guide me and show me, and
Yes.
so that's why I took that. And then when I came back across the street, everything got really loud again because it was quiet out there. And then I heard the truck go by and the horns, and I didn't hear the birds, and because all of a sudden I got back to the
There's something about, right, just being still and knowing that God is God, as the psalmist writes. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Anything else?
Cemetery, and as I was doing it, I had never gone all the way in the back other than to visit a friend that had passed. And there was an unusual shaped monument facing the lake. And I didn't have my camera to take a picture, but it was the effect of God's pure like a lily, and the whiteness and that of the lily unfolds over time, and that do not open the closed leaves, allow them to open, and then you will see the galaxy of God's gold. Something to that effect, and I just was struck by that.
My dad meditated for like all my many years, twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. And he talked about like the chatter city, and how over time it was much easier to, get to that place with no thought and, get control. Well, not get control, but the chatter and the horns and everything and the traffic was, not hearable.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why. It's why we call it spiritual practice, right? And even the great gurus, right, in the spiritual world, they all talk about their ongoing struggle, like to be still, right? And because that's not how we were created with brains that are always working, right? I mean, we are wired to think. And so it's really almost goes against how we were made, right?
It's absolutely possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's, like as soon as I came in, you were meditating, I heard my mantra. But it takes some time.
No, absolutely. Well, we just have a couple moments left. Thank you for all of that sharing. I hope you will continue these conversations with one another. One of the things I always do at the end of a retreat, and I thought it might be kind of nice to do it actually as we bring this series to a close, is what I call gathering the graces. And it's just taking a moment to pause, right? We talked about throughout the series of, being intentional, right? How do I want to show up, to be listening? Well, gathering the graces gives us an opportunity to name maybe what's one thing I want to take away from this time together. So maybe not even, it could be an intention if you want to set an intention as you leave this space. But it can also just be lifting up one thing you're grateful for, or one thing, right? We did a lot, we talked about a lot, and it'd be great if we all did all the things that we talked about, but that's not life. So if you go, let me just name one thing. If I can only hold on to one thing out of these 5 weeks, what's one thing I either want to take with me or express gratitude for, or let's just gather the graces. One thing you'd like to lift up, name, take with you, give thanks for.
I'm going to search for a rock. This rock has touched me the whole time I've been here. It's smooth in places and it's rough in places, and it has the word divine and a heart on the front. So there's a chunk missing out of the back. And even if you fall, there's love on the back, and there's a heart, and that's spoken to me.
So just picking up a rock, that can be enough, right? Who knew? Who knew? Anything else you want to name to take away? Yes.
That touched me too. Like last couple weeks ago, she brought like this paper and said hope, and then I got take this one and it said strength. Those are two things I did.
Anything else?
I'm always very thankful for Sunday school, because there's so many things you think you've thought it through from A to Z, and then somebody else says something you can't go, I never thought of that, but it's the intentionality. No matter what, we have to pull ourselves away from the hubbub And it has to be something to think about. It's just not going to happen. Something's not necessarily going to call you and say, okay, this is a good time to sit down and do this.
Yes.
It has to be the intention of the tent to just let everything.
And that's part of the gift, I think, of doing this together, right? Because you always have each other to call each other back. And even if it's you just keep returning to this circle Sunday mornings moving forward, it's like, it's enough, right? And now you've all had this experience together. You cannot tell me that this did not deepen your relationships with one another. Even if you never talk about this again, you are in a different space with each other because you have experienced this holy, sacred time apart, right? There's something profound about being in silence with one another, that you're not the same community. Well, let me bring us to a close with a final blessing. And this is a blessing for peace. It is my hope and prayer for you as we venture into Holy Week. So settle in to hear these words, this desire, this invitation for peace. Beloved children of God, be at peace. Be at peace and let go of all attachments to outcomes. Be at peace and know that love always lives right here, right now. Be at peace. You are doing the best you can in this moment. Be at peace and let the world spin without you. Be at peace, releasing stress, anxiety, and worry. Be at peace, allowing each moment to enter without resistance. Be at peace, shoulders soft, heart open, spine aligned with heaven. Be at peace, knowing you are never alone. Be at peace and listen for guidance. Be at peace and make an offering of your day. Be at peace and feel how infinitely loved you are. Beloved children of God, be at peace and breathe. Just breathe. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dale. Just creating this space for us every week throughout Lent has been so meaningful. We're so grateful for you and for this time. As she mentioned, there's lots of materials here about the work that she is doing and facilitating. So if it's spoken to you, come up and check that out. We will have class next week. We're going to do the prayer walk in here through a labyrinth. So please come back next week for that. And then finally, right after the 11 o'clock worship service, we are having an event in here. And so I need just a couple of hands to put out 5 round tables. We can use this one, so we need to grab 4 more in there. And know that you guys are welcome to come and join that, even if you didn't sign up. There will be enough food, right, JC? Right. So that's the event about the dangers of explicit media. So we're going to be having an important conversation in here about porn and how to protect, especially the youngest ones, in our midst. So a couple people who can stick around and help would be great. Will, maybe. Pete, maybe, you know. Just calling out my husband and the guys in the room. But yeah, if you want to grab Dale before she heads out and tell her how she's impacted you over this Lent, do so. Thanks, everyone. See you in worship.